overwhelmed by everyone in this room. I'm overwhelmed by this opportunity. I want to first, before we dive in, just give a huge shout out to Asaph and his entire team with Tacoma Connect. You all are curating an amazing space for us to come. Thank you so very much. Everybody give it up for Asaph and his entire team. We are here because of that, and I got to tell you, it was not on my short list of what I had thought I would do when I said, let's do a podcast. It was not, we would do a live taping in front of 100 people and have a dynamic panel of people and so many people in the room. So thank you for that. I also want to thank all of my friends and family and partners and community and coworkers and prospective funders to the podcast. Thank you so much for showing up and coming out tonight. You all could have been anywhere, and yet you decided to come here to see what this is about. And I'm not going to get teary-eyed already. Wait, hold on. It means a lot. I'm humbled. I'm very thankful and grateful for your time and attention, and I don't take that lightly, so thank you very much. I also want to just say welcome to the Release, to my dynamic panel here today. The Release is a place where we heal, but not the way your therapist might have warned you about. Here, we embrace the mess, we skip the fluff, and we get to the real questions of, why am I like this? And sometimes it means we have to side-eye our childhood and say, perhaps it's because of that. I'm your host, Dr. Tafana Irvin, and it is my pleasure to be able to be here with you all and have this dynamic panel. Tonight's invitation to you is to rethink the way that you actually think about healing, the way that you process healing, the way that you even talk about healing. So many of us for so many years have been guarded in the way that we actually do the hard work of rejuvenating ourselves so we can be great in front of people or friends and family, and we're not doing a very good job of it. I will speak for myself. I have not been doing a very good job at that. And this space right here that we are curating is to help let down those guards and try to figure that out. My guards are rooted very deep, and today's conversation is about interrogation. I think that there are many tenets of how we actually get to this process of healing, and interrogating ourselves is one of them. It's asking the really hard questions and being honest with ourselves about how we answer them, not giving the canned responses of I'm fine or I'm good or it's not a big deal or I've been there before, but saying that shit hurts. It really hurts and I don't know how to process. Or I feel alone and I don't feel like anyone sees me. That is the work that we have to do as we are on this journey. So I want to get into it tonight. Again, we have a very dynamic panel. I'm so proud and excited to be amongst friends and colleagues and coworkers. Tonight, we are really going to talk about their journey to self-interrogation and getting to this state of actualization, this state of how they found confidence in themselves despite everything that they've gone through. And each one of us will share a story and a testimony about what that looks like. So with me, I have Miss Sativa Jones, the founder, owner, and operator of Dream Chasers Sleepovers, proud mother of two, a born and raised resident of Tacoma, Hilltop to be precise.
Thank you.
And is one of the state's baddest college and career district administrators that I know. Give it up for Miss Sativa. Next, we have Miss Tawana Nobles, a devoted mother, community advocate, well-dressed individual, CEO, and how can I forget our leading state senator? Give it up for Miss Tawana. And finally, but certainly not least, we have Miss Kiara Daniels, my girl, also born and raised right here in Tacoma, actually went to Hunt. I wonder why she went to Foss. But she has made her way from a Tacoma resident on the streets of, I forget where you said exactly, but now leading our community as deputy mayor and now Tacoma's newest residential developer. Please give it up for Kiara.
Yes.
So again, tonight, it really is about taking stock in interrogation. It's about asking ourselves questions, really diving deep into how we answer those questions and being honest. And my invitation to you all is to let down your guard and be vulnerable. This space is intended to be safe. It's not intended for judgment or passive assumptions or any other ways in which people might characterize us. It's about saying we have feelings that have yet to be resolved, and we are here to heal unconventionally. Excuse me. So with that, I want to start with Tawana. Tawana, you are an amazing, well-presented, confident woman in your own right. A woman who makes clear what your boundaries are, makes clear what you want and what you don't want. You show up as a very refined individual who no one will often question your presence. However, you have not always been like that. You've not always been here. You've evolved to this state of being, and I'm curious if you can share with us how you got here and who you were before that.
I mean, who said I wasn't always like that? All right. Well, thank you to Dr. Irvin for having us here. I'm very excited to be here and to be able to share components of my story, and thank you for your kind words. I certainly feel like a confident woman, a confident person, definitely have strong boundaries, and I think you're right. I mean, it took a lot of intentional work to be able to arrive at this place. For folks who don't know my story, I had a great and loving family and also experienced several hardships. I had a father who was not involved, a mother who in the 80s became addicted to crack cocaine. My siblings and I experienced homelessness and foster care. At one point during early high school, later middle school, I lived in a shelter by myself as a teen parent. And so it did take a lot of intentional work to arrive at this place where I get to provide a completely different experience for my children, where I get to serve my community as a state senator, where I have the privilege of holding a bachelor's and master's from the Harvard of the Pacific Northwest, University of Puget Sound. But just be someone who loves my family and my friends and my community. But it took some inward looking at myself and understanding that a lot of how I showed up when I was younger, as a guarded young woman, as a broken young woman, as someone who was scared to be abandoned again. Because anyone who has experienced the foster care system knows that you oftentimes wonder, whose am I?
Yep.
Who is responsible for me? I mean, to live in a shelter as a young teenager and teen mom in Phoenix City, Alabama, I really had to question, like, how does this happen? I have no guardian. No adult is responsible for me. And soon I'm going to be responsible for another human being. The one thing I can appreciate about myself is I have always been very focused. The confidence did not show up later in life. The confidence has been with me, and my faith in God has been with me. I knew if I could do well in school, make good decisions, keep my eye on my goals, I could arrive at the place that I am today. And I think it's really important to understand that even going through those situations, when I lived in shelters, there were amazing Black women that I could look up to who were role models for me. Black women who ran those shelters, who were the CEOs of those nonprofits, who taught me how to lead a nonprofit and really inspired the work that I do today. It was coaches of the sports teams that I played on as a young person, the coaches who would pick me up from my house because people in my family did not even know that I belonged to a sports team and needed to get to practice, but would make sure that I was there, who inspired me to be a coach in my community. And I got to serve as a basketball and volleyball and cheer coach. But I had to really reconcile with the way that I showed up as someone who was very guarded, not always kind, not someone who was open to relationships. And even when I moved to this area, I got married for the first time, because I've been married now 5 times. I'm just kidding,
We'll
just a
talk
couple.
about this later.
But when I got married the first time, I was, I think, 19 years old. I got married in Phoenix City, Alabama. And if you haven't listened to my TED Talk, it kind of goes into like my reflection of how and why that happened. But I'm grateful for every part of my life and my journey. But we were stationed here to Washington at Fort Lewis, now Joint Base Lewis and McChord. And I started school at TCC because I didn't want to wait for a semester. I wanted to jump into school, and a community college will allow you to do that in a quarter system. And even at TCC, I just was not kind. I mean, I'm still friends with lots of the women that I played basketball with at TCC, but I remember being so guarded even when I started college. When I attended college in Alabama, I remember the dean of the school calling me to her office and telling me I was about to be expelled because I was influencing other students to make poor decisions. So I had to overcome a lot of my assumptions about myself and my behavior that were coupled with so many positive things that I had going for myself. And I think I'm grateful for the teachers and the mentors who could see the positivity in me. The teachers who would tell me, man, if you fix your attitude, wear a little less makeup, you're going places. You just got to stay focused. But when you grow up in the projects, when you grow up experiencing poverty and foster care, experiencing physical and verbal abuse, experiencing homelessness, there is a certain like rigidness that can come with that. And so I had to chip away at that rigidness and kind of smooth out the woman that I knew I wanted to become. And I'm still becoming her, because I'm gonna tell you now, I have my days. If y'all follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'm like,
Popping
oh
off
yeah, girl,
these.
you still got the hood in you, but
We love her.
I do love her. But that little girl is still inside me,
For sure.
and I continue to work on the woman that little girl is becoming every day. But I give the little girl a lot of credit for being focused, for the stick-wittedness, for retaining faith and focus. And I just feel grateful that each and every day I get to continue to do the work that I get to do and become a better person. But it has not been a given or easy journey. But I think my message to anyone is, if you want to become someone that's different than the environment that you are currently in, you can. You just have to make it up in your mind that you're not going to settle for less.
And I think it's beautiful that you, along the way, in that short backdrop, talked about the people who influenced you, the people who helped to pour into you and tell you. We have a few educators in the room. I think I saw them walking amongst. And we underestimate sometimes how important those individuals are to our developing selves, right? Because we, as humans, are developing until we're like 24, 26, quite frankly. The brain is not fully developed. We are still making like reason and our ways of processing. But those individuals who might be at the point of your hardest times are encouraging you. It helps your brain to not always be in a fight or guarded state. It allows for it to think more about what is possible for yourself. So I love hearing that. And I think for so many of us in this room, we can all probably find a moment where we've been guarded or where we are currently still guarded and yet to release those walls because we haven't figured out how to do that. So I'm going to pivot now and jump to Sativa. Sativa and I have been friends for over 20 years. We have literally gone through many things together. The stories that I could share about our experiences run very deep. Sativa is also a fellow Virgo queen. Shout out to the Virgos in the room. Oh, just us, okay? Oh, wait, no, there's another one. But we have a very similar way of processing in some ways. It's not always the right way, but it's a similar way. And we've talked about that over the course of our friendship. We talked about how we got there. But I also know that we have yet to fully release ourselves, and we're still working on it. And for those of us who know Sativa well, and those of us who really know Sativa at all, we know that Sativa lost both of her parents very young. Her father at a very, very young age, and her mother not too long ago. To lose a parent is indescribable, and there is a level of grieving and processing that I am learning from friends that I know who have lost someone. Never goes away. It never is healed. And the journey to do that sometimes feels lonely. It feels isolating. It feels like no one gets it. And yet you still have to kind of show up and be on, and you have to show up and do it. And so my question to you in this context of interrogation, like, what have you been doing to help yourself process? What has that looked like for you? And what are some truths that you had to deal with along the way to kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, grief is a beast with so many layers to it. And the Sativa who lost her dad much younger and then lost my mom in the last 5 years are two totally different versions of me navigating grief. When I lost my dad, he was one of the few constants in my world. There was a lot of childhood things similar to Tawana experiencing foster care. Without a single medical credential, I can help somebody with withdrawing from any substance because I did that on a regular for my mom as she battled addiction my entire life. So then to lose that one constant at a young age was really, really challenging for me. And for me, like everything else, I just kind of took it on the chin and kept going. And that carried throughout my 20s and my behavior. I had a chip on my shoulder. Anyone who knew me on that time, they'd probably say, oh, she's the meanest, nice person I know. Heart full of gold, but just mean. Not because anyone did anything to me, but because my experiences just had left me so guarded. Right. And so when I lost my mom, it was just a different level of grief. I couldn't outperform and put that facade on and keep going. And quite honestly, I hit a wall in a way that I just could not bounce back from. I couldn't get out the bed some days. I was grappling with the bitter and the sweet of my mom. So the challenges that made my life really challenging, but also the great things that she poured and instilled into me. And so how do you process the significant loss, but I also haven't unpacked the grief and trauma that came with her just simply being my mom. And so it became a point to where people around me were noticing it in a way to where I knew I had to do something about it. And so I had to begin to be intentional to interrogate myself around, like, what are you doing? I'd be at brunch with my friends, and after the second shot of tequila, I'm crying at the table. They're like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. And I think that I've navigated this path of both conventional and unconventional healing. And so where I started was with the only thing I had heard I wasn't necessarily familiar with, but I had to do some intensive grief counseling to help me understand what it was that I was navigating. I couldn't even put the words to anxiety. I didn't have the language or the understanding of what I was experiencing because nobody else had lost their parents around me. So I was just in this space of trying to figure it out and take it on the chin, but it just wasn't doable. I experienced some deep, dark depression and hid it from everyone, so I thought, around me, but people saw how I was showing up differently. And through both the therapy that I engaged in, I also had to change my perspective. And there was a point where I had to realize that the things that happen to me are unfair. My experience is different. It doesn't look like my friends who have two parents. It doesn't look like the friends who have the support. It just looks different for me. And I have to figure out how to navigate that. And what that looked like was a mindset shift of turning my grief into gratitude. And it's easy for me to sit on some days and my work's not done yet. There's still days that I go down these spirals that my kids don't have grandparents and that they would be loved unconditionally by these two people, but they're just simply not here. But that shift in mindset and being intentional about that healing process yields you to a point to say, you know what? I have an amazing village around me of friends, families. My kids have an abundance of aunties and all the things. And that shift in perspective just allows you to navigate it in a different way. It doesn't stop it from hurting. It doesn't stop the experiences that I have. It does not stop it from just simply, it just sucks to be in that predicament, but leaning into the gratitude side of it just really shifts your perspective to know that I'm just so fortunate to have the people that I have around me, that I have been able to overcome these things, to give myself grace when my experience doesn't look like the person next to me because we're not running the same race. My hurdles were much higher, in the trenches, in the mud, all the things, and that's okay. And so one actualization that I've really had to sit down with and just accept that my experience is different. My parents aren't here, and that's that. And what am I going to do about it? I can continue to be me. I can have that chip on the shoulder, or I can be much more intentional about how I show up on a day-to-day, how I'm intentional about creating my space for myself so that I'm also not trickling the same things that were trickled on me from my mom. How do I show up better for my kids so that they're not sitting up on the stage telling all my mama's business in a couple of years or racking up all these therapy bills?
They will,
and they will, because I'm their mom. And at the same time, my kids' experience is so different from what I've grown up with. And to be able to sit in that alone, to be proud of, like, yeah, my path's a little janky, but we're here, we're showing up, we're thriving in ways that no one else in my family, every single generational curse, I'm giving it a 1-2 uppercut and some more. And thank you for the little woo, I like that. And so just sitting in that space of just being intentional about the things that don't work, and just simply just figuring it out and not allowing the excuses or the things that happened to me be the end of the story.
Later, we'll talk a little bit about patterns of behaviors and how those behaviors are really the path that tells us exactly who we are and how we can actually change our trajectory around the people we're around. If we are acknowledging and really intentionally accepting that these patterns are at a detriment to the people around us, to our mental health, to our friends, our work, everything that we think about, then we can actually change it with a shift in mindset and intentionality to different behaviors. And I love that you shared conventional versus unconventional. I want to be very clear. I am not a therapist. I do not, now I studied psychology in my undergrad, so I might know a term or two, but we're not here to give advice on how you actually heal conventionally. But this unconventional, I think, is where so many of us are actually sitting. It's this intersection of we all have life. We all go through things together. Sometimes we go through them in silo, and yet we know, like, if I can point out these trends and behaviors in my friends or the people around me, then maybe we can talk about this and maybe we can heal together. And that's a lot about what the space is and what we're trying to create here with the podcast. And so this intersection of leading and healing and being is the core of the release. So many of us, all of us are leaders in various ways. Many of you, all of you are leaders in your own right. But showing up with grief or showing up with the baggage of your past, showing up is really hard, especially when no one acknowledges you as an individual and acknowledges the things that you're going through. And so, Kiara, this question is to you because I think you've stepped 10 toes down on your leadership in the last 5 years, 6 years as a council member and now deputy mayor. I remember watching you in one of your very first interviews, and I was like, okay, I'm excited for this woman to be here. And then I saw the growth, the learning, the wanting to understand, the interrogating why things are the way that they are, and really trying to figure it out, and then pushing back, ultimately getting to this place of saying, I know better, so now I'm gonna push back and do something. But you've also been building silently an empire. You've been doing something on your own, despite being in local government and trying to make a better community for everyone here. And along the way, you've had a lot of start and stops. And along the way, you have a lot of challenges that have been thrown up against you that in some ways might have told you, you are not worthy, this is not your race, please go home, and yet you persisted. My question to you is around what was the moment that shifted for you that not only propelled you to go into city government or be in this leadership role, but to build something that not only you could be proud of, but this community, when we have these future resident spaces that we can call our home, we'll be proud of. How did you get there?
First of all, you in my business. We had to start. I said, where did she find about them start and stops? Wait a minute. We wasn't even. How did she find out about all that? And I just want to just make it clear that I was not the first person to say crack up here. It was you. It wasn't me. I knew that was going to come up. I was trying to figure out how I was going to still be myself. Dr. Irvin didn't mention that was going to come up, but I felt in my spirit that this was a common thread, and I'm just really glad that I wasn't the first one to say it, because I am really used to hiding that part of myself, and more not myself, but really part of my family, which really means part of myself, right? Like what your family goes through, what your parents experience, what your aunties and uncles and cousins and further on experience is really a part of your experience. And for me, that's a really big part of my identity that I don't share with people, mostly because I don't want to embarrass my family.
Yep.
But we're here releasing.
Yep.
And I think that I usually hide a lot of what happens or what has happened in the past with comedy. And I do joke a lot, but that is just, that's our just way to cope.
Yeah.
And I would say that what I realized in coming through life is that you mentioned me being a developer of housing, and this thread of housing, similar to kind of coping and drugs and all these things that my family has gone with. Housing has been the one thing that has run in tandem with that. Mm-hmm. And when we didn't have housing, or when they didn't have the housing, when my cousins and our aunties and uncles didn't have housing, there was always drugs related to that. And that was always the one thing that I felt like was an equalizer, that if I could just fix that, if we could just figure out how to get everybody a place to stay, a place to be, like we could just figure out the rest. And for me, that's been kind of the push for my life. And I realized that after college, I got a master's degree, which I don't know how I got that, but I would just say it's a really severe case of survivor's remorse. I might be one of the only people in my family that has really excelled to this level, and it's not I'm not special. I got dealt the good hand. And I really, really recognize that, and I appreciate God so much for that. But I also realize that there's a certain level of guilt that comes with having the stable household. And in the 80s, you either was on dope or you were supporting the person that was on dope. Those are your two choices.
Period.
And my parents were the ones that were the supporters. So we always had everybody at our house. We were always used to not people pleasing, people pleasing, I guess I would call it, but also just like maintaining, and that anxiety that you brought up really comes in of making sure that everybody's good all the time. And so I would say with that, I have always thought about life is good for me. I got my degree, I got my master's now. I could just go, I could get away from here. I don't got to do nothing else. I'm good. I'm straight. And what would I be without all of these people that supported me? What would I be without my auntie who was in rehab and relapsing, but gave me, these $100 for gas to make sure that I could get through my, just every piece of who I am is because someone else struggled before me. And I just carry every piece of that with me all of the time. And so that switch comes from being a young person, and when somebody finally passes away from whatever the addiction is or whatever it is, you just have that moment of like, wow, time is limited, and there is nobody coming to save us from ourselves. There is nobody coming to fix this. And not to be corny, but like I listen to a lot of Nipsey Hussle, and I listen to a lot of,
come on, Nipsey.
I listened to a lot of that. And at the time, he passed at the same time as my cousin that passed away in a sheltered 40, not even of drugs, actually, of a heart defect. And that really changed me. That changed the way that I, mind you, I'm working in housing at the time. I'm trying to build housing. I'm begging the housing authority to build more, to do more, faster. And our last meeting was him at the housing authority coming to get housing, and me working there, helping them to build more housing. And that was the last time I saw him. And that was my moment of, oh my gosh, like this is life or death. And I would say that was just my catalyst moment. Everybody doesn't get that moment, but it was my moment to say your life is bigger than yours, and that you can really make an impact, and you can really do things that are outside of yourself, and that I owe it to my family that has struggled and my family that has done all of these things. And I'm so proud of them for who they are and making it and being resilient to even be here. And this is just my gratitude toward that.
Yeah. Every bit of your story, all of your stories, there's a thread. So I appreciate you surfacing that. Stories that we hide because of embarrassment, stories that we are trying to make sense of, stories that we are still grappling with and trying to course correct so we don't pass it on to either our offsprings or the people around us. And yet those stories are often unseen, they're often untold, and they're often in silence. And I think the challenge for me, so again, releasing this, I was telling someone that I met tonight, it actually started with the book I'm writing. I've been writing a book for 3 years, and I got a lot to say. And I realized that I was actually releasing all of this bottled up pain and all of the things that no one has ever really heard me say vocally to them. And I found that I can't be the only one. And then I went to this retreat and I shared this with a few people to the Dear Sister Just Breathe, hosted by the Wanderer Woman out of Seattle. The most liberating retreat I've ever been to, the most liberating thing I think I've ever been to in my life. Black women of all ages who, one said, this almost killed me because I didn't release. I didn't share. It had me on my back in a hospital for weeks, and no one could figure it out. And it's because I've been holding on the weight of everything, everyone around me. And I think that hit me so hard that I said, no more. I literally have been on a path of I just don't care about others' opinions or perspectives or thoughts. And I care, of course, but not to the point where I'm holding back what I wanted. That's doing this. The fact that we're here today is, I've been talking about this for years, and the fact that we're here is just a testament to that. But there's something that you said, Kiara, that I can't, it's embarrassment. I have a chapter in the book that it's about shame. I felt ashamed of my background, right? I felt ashamed that life was like that for you, for me, for us. That hurts. We shouldn't feel that way because we are not the reason of our circumstances. We don't control that. Now, my mom's in the audience, and I love her so very much. She did the absolute best that she could given the circumstances that she was in. And I will tell you, the 80s in Tacoma was shit, period. If you lived here, you question if you should walk down the street, especially at night. You question if you had a place to stay. No one really had stable housing. People not that I knew had stable housing. You question your purpose, why am I even alive? Do people want me here? Am I worthy of living? Am I worthy of having a place on a stage or in a classroom? I presented or had a conversation with a bunch of young women who were running for Miss Juneteenth, and every single one of those young women said to me during that interview that they are struggling in the schools that they're in because they don't feel seen, they don't feel valued, they don't feel respected, they don't feel heard, and that they're just trying to get out so that they can do something better with themselves. And as I was listening to those conversations, I had this flashback to that was me 30 years ago in high school. And yet here we are, 30 years later, these same stories are happening. And it made me question, what am I doing in my job? I'm an advocate for education justice. My goal is to make this place better so that we, can be connected to housing, but we can be connected to social services like healthcare and childcare and all of the things. And when I heard that, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore because I feel like I'm not actually making a change. I feel like the system is still exactly the way it's always been, and there are still young people who I was just like that hurting in these classrooms, and that broke my heart. I think I went home and I cried. I think I went home and I just said, I'm failing the system. But then, to the point, I think that maybe Sativa said about this mind shift change is But I can't just rest on the fact that, the world is messed up. I'm trying not to cuss. My husband's like, Devonna, be dignified. There's so many people who are looking at you. Don't cuss. Okay. So I'm trying. But the world's fucked. Like, it is terrible right now. Like, it just feels dark. It feels heavy. But we can't not continue to do things, right? We can't give up, and we can't do that. And so I pivot a bit and talk about there's a process. Whether or not we codify it or name it, every one of us is going through a process. It's our own process. It's our process of dealing, healing. It's our process of like trying to figure out what's our next move. We have to figure out how we're going to pay our bills, raise our kids, like go to our job. And so we have to realize that in order to get to the other side of it, we have to walk through discomfort. And being uncomfortable is very uncomfortable. Right? It's really hard to describe. No one wants to have an uncomfortable conversation about, hey, so you're going to lose your job in a couple weeks. Let me tell you, I did that. Sucks. No one wants to talk about like, hey, girl, I think I saw your man the other day with someone else. Did you know about that? Sucks, right? No one wants to talk about like your mom is not doing well or whatever those things are. There are a lot of discomfort that you have to have in conversations, but you have to have them if you want to get to the other side. And I think getting to the other side, there's some acknowledgement that happens, acknowledging what is or isn't serving us. Boundaries start to percolate. You know exactly how and when to begin to share some of those stories. And then we also begin to see those patterns of how we're actually showing up. What's in it for me? What's in it for you? Recognizing that is a journey. And going deep on that is the work. And interrogating ourselves and the people around us is the hard work. Like, does this friendship still make sense? Does this like home we live in still work? Is this marriage still the right marriage? Really hard conversations, but you have to have them if you really want to get to the other side. In this book I mentioned, I talk a lot about the unseen sacrifices that we make. It's really situated on women, but everyone gives sacrifices in life. I think women, though, carry a lot more of those burdens and sacrifices in many ways. You can argue with me later. I think that those sacrifices become routine, so much so that we've built so much thick skin and callus all around us that we don't even realize how much we're giving. And the people around us, particularly men, don't even acknowledge all of that we're giving. I love that my Instagram algorithm is talking a lot about perimenopause. Shout out to everyone who's in perimenopause. Sucks. And it just talks about like all of the things that we have to go through. Like you get to sit here and enjoy your steak dinner. I'm sweating, like I'm itching, like you're irritating me because you're talking to you and chewing too loud. Like all of these things while you get to enjoy your steak dinner. I don't even want to be here anymore, right? Like those things that we all go through are unseen sacrifices that we make because we still show up, we still get dressed, we still go to the dinner. So why am I bringing all that up? I think that having honest and ugly conversations with ourselves is the path to healing. And having those ugly conversations also means being honest with yourself. I did an exercise and I ugly cried, y'all. This exercise had me look at 2 blank faces. One that I show up with every single day that people know and expect of me, and then one that no one ever sees. And when I started writing this face of a person that no one ever sees, I thought like, why does no one know who I really am? How is it that I have all these friends, all this family, and no one has ever even uncovered or unpacked any of the things that really have been buried within me for so long? I am part of that because I've been guarded. I've not shared, I've not let on, I've not really given it in because I was embarrassed and I was ashamed of my past and how it has shaped me. I love what my mother tried to do given her circumstances. But the experiences that I had growing up were still experiences of hurt and of trauma. I also had a lot of housing instability. I also was in a shelter once, and I gotta tell you, I got my first Christmas gift. It was a Cabbage Patch doll right down the street. I will never forget it. It is the first gift I remember ever getting in my life. And I thought, those people cared enough about me to give me a gift. Why did my family not? Like, how is it possible to have family who does not care enough about you? I couldn't comprehend then, right? They didn't have money. They were unable to do those things. But it was in me to think about, how do I not be that person when I get older? How do I give my children something different? Which is why I overcompensate and probably spend way too much money on them now. But I'm learning and I'm processing. So dealing with these truths of ourselves, interrogating, like doing the ugly cry, being honest, looking in the mirror, that's a process that we all go through. So this is a round robin. Anyone can start, no particular order. I'm curious, what's a hard truth that you've had to face? And what was the process that you had to go through in order to truly face that to get to where you are today?
I could start before one of y'all steal my answer. I think that one thing I've learned is I had to get in tune with my star player, which was me. I have been conditioned since day one to take care of everyone else, and that was sacrificing myself for what everyone else needed around me. That meant taking care of my mom when she didn't come home for days on end. That meant making sure that my siblings were good and had what they needed. That meant my senior year, I literally had 3 jobs. I don't know what was going on with child labor laws back then, but I was outside at Lady Foot Locker, the Boys and Girls Club, and Stanley Elementary. Get into it because I had to. But what I've learned along the way is I'm doing a disservice to myself if I can't show up whole in other spaces, because I am putting myself last in everything that I do. And I still have not perfected that craft, but really understanding that when you don't fill yourself up, when you don't take the time for yourself, you can't show up whole at work, you can't show up whole for your family, for your children. And that was a big pivot and realization that I had to make. And I didn't even realize I was doing it because I had just been doing it for so long. And so something that I've really leaned into this past year is I'm unapologetically going to do what is best for me. And I'm not going to consider how it impacts everybody else, because if I can't show up for myself, I can't show up for my kids. And that's a hard pivot. And it took a while for me to see the return on that. But as I've started to see how things have become so much more aligned, I'm so much more in sync. My nervous system is resting probably for the first time in my entire life, because I'm not going to let you stress me out. That's your story. That's your version. Stick with it. Have a good day. Not everything is going to allow me to pop off. And anybody who knows me, I need a reason. I don't need much to need a reason to pop off. But there's just so much rest and restoration and stillness that I just have not experienced until this stage of my life. And I love that for me. And Brandon's not my husband, so I could cuss. I am unfuckwittable at this point in my life. Like, you just can't move or shake me because of that. Again, that shift in mindset and perspective, because I know who I am for the first time. It took me a while to get here. 40 is knocking, and to really be able to be comfortable in who I am, to love who I am, to not allow just anybody to be able to shake my boundaries. I hate that it took this long for me to figure it out, but I'm here now, and you can't
going
move
back.
me.
Ain't going back.
Yeah, so
I love that. I love that.
She said hard truth. You got one?
What's a hard truth?
I didn't read this
got
far in the
plenty.
outline. I actually missed this part, so now I have to really think about my business.
I always got plenty. Let's choose one. I think one hard truth that I have learned about myself is how important it is to embrace who I am naturally as someone who likes to listen and think, take information in, and then be able to, if necessary, offer comments or offer a solution. I think as someone who has a presence in community, who has very public roles in community, I think as a Black woman and someone that shows up as a strong advocate, the assumption is that I'm very outgoing. I always want to have something to say. I want to be the leader all the time. And I think there's something to say about being able to like embrace the more introverted person that I am. I oftentimes will even say that I feel more shy. I think because of my survival, I know how to speak up for people. And just trigger warning, because what I'm going to share is, a little bit violent, but, my brothers, when I have talked to them in the past, they're like, you remember when like our mom had stolen from someone? We lived in Atlanta. She was addicted to crack. Someone tried to break into our house. I was in middle school. Actually, I think I was in elementary school because Criss Cross was hot then. I was waiting for my opportunity to go to Camp Creek Middle School, where Criss Cross went to middle school. So I think I was in elementary school, but someone, a male, had broken into our house to attack my mom. And my brothers were like, remember you were like stabbing him in the face to get him off of mom? And like, I don't have a strong memory of that. I remember being in middle school, living in the projects in Phoenix City. And I was, I think, 7th or 8th grade. I went to South Girard Middle School, and there was a fight that had started days in advance, just like some girls bullying each other. Both of the girls involved were kind of friends of mine, but one of the girls got fed up. We got off our bus in middle school, and one of the girls attacked another girl by stabbing her in the face, like at the bus stop, and I had to like get the girl who was stabbing the other girl off of her. And so just thinking of these traumatic experiences, in addition to just other things that happen in our family, like thinking of, being there for my siblings when my mom would leave for several days because of her addiction. And so I was responsible for my siblings early, and I needed to be focused and strategic and have a plan. How am I going to feed these young people? I'm young myself, but I feel like I matured early, had to think about strategy early, had to think about protection early. And so naturally, I'm one who likes to scope out the environment. I don't have anything to say unless something needs to be said. I'm able to lead because I've been in positions where I can step up. I can be a strong voice. I can be an advocate. I can be a protector. But I don't always want to be in those positions. And so I think over the years, one hard truth is like, naturally, I'm more shy and introverted. I just like to watch and observe. I don't really like social environments where they're like, do an icebreaker, go mix and mingle. Like that gives me a lot of social anxiety. And it probably is still my becoming too, of just like trusting environments and people and what people's intentions are what people's intentions are, because I value just deeper relationships. Like, I know you, I know I can trust you, I know what's up. And like wading through that sometimes is just not an easy process for me. And I feel like that's okay. I don't have to be someone who was a state senator and a CEO and executive and also be extroverted. I can sit back and be who I am and chill and observe and listen, and feel nervous and uncomfortable when I have public speaking events, and like that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But it's been a really a difficult truth, I think, sometimes less for me but more for other people, because when I'm in rooms, especially as a Black woman in positions of leadership, people want to know, well, don't you want to speak? What do you have to say? And I'm like, nah, I don't have anything to say that hasn't been said. I'm cooling. Since we cussing, y'all on some bullshit, so I definitely don't want to add nothing to this conversation. Nah, y'all ain't figuring shit out, so nope, I'm good.
Yes, I love that.
So, and I feel like okay with that. Like I'm not someone that is just like an outgoing extrovert. I am someone that is focused, that is strategic, that goes hard for my community and people that are meaningful to me. Someone that will listen and show up and try to do the right thing, and someone that's a protector. I'm loyal, and I want to be surrounded by people who are loyal to me. And I'm grateful that I just don't feel like, because of my experiences or position, I feel like I need to show up as someone that I'm not.
Yeah. Kiara,
Hard truth.
hard truth.
I think I got a lot of hard truths. And I would identify with both hard truths that have already been said. And I think that is actually what draws me to y'all, is that I know that you're closet introverts and we just kind of get forced into these spaces. But if I think about something that I've been wrestling with recently, just dealing with where I'm at and where I want to be, is grappling with who I am and why I haven't moved out of the city yet. I am 36 this year, and I.
Meanwhile, I'm 107.
Chill. um, I I went to college at Evergreen, Tacoma, and then I went to Evergreen Olympia, and I had the opportunity to do a lot of things outside of the city. And I'm here serving my city, and I love my job. I got 134 days, but I'm not counting.
Yeah.
I love my job down. I love this city badly, but I've always had this desire to be elsewhere and to experience the world. And I've traveled a lot, but I've never been able to fully spread my wings. And a lot of times people ask me why I'm not doing another term in this moment. And the reality is, if I did another 4 years in this stage of life of committing to be here, I don't know that I wouldn't do it without resenting never leaving. And I don't know what part of me created that fear, because I'm really not a fearful person. I'm not really scared of many things. And I don't know what came from me and what came from my mom. And I'm having this transition of removing what is hers and what is mine. And she grew up, like I said, in the 80s, you had two choices. You were either supporting people that were on dope or you were on dope. And when you are the one that's supporting your entire family, you grow a fear of leaving, grow a fear of really everything, of being big, of you kind of like make yourself small. And she was also a middle child. Her mom died early. She's one of 7. And I carry so much of her in me. And I have to figure out what is mine. And I don't know that everything is mine. I'm an only child. I don't have those fears. I really feel like there's things that I want to do and experience, and I want to experience them without guilt. And I think a hard truth for me is that maybe I've been settling.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it looks like to release. So when I count these days down, it's not because I don't love my city. It's just the days in which I feel like at 1:30 or at 0, I get to live for me for just a little bit. I get to experience what that might look like. What decisions would I make if I didn't think about my little cousins? What decisions would I make if I didn't think about what my mom was gonna do if I left? What decisions would I make if I didn't think about aging parents and aunties and uncles, and like, what would I do if it was just me? And I'm just working through that guilt and trying to think about how to experience me for the first time. And I have a lot of joy around it, a lot of joy, but also some stress.
Yeah, there's some reservations. There's a method I'm going to talk to you all about in just a little bit, and I think that we can get there. We're going to have to speed this up, and I hate that because this is so good. I am feeling like no one is here, and we're just having a conversation, and I'm connecting on levels that we haven't yet connected on, and hearing every one of like your stories. But there is this intersection between healing, leading, and being. Dr. Sheila Edwards Lang, the Chancellor of University of Washington, Tacoma, was recently on an episode, and she said, I am in a formal role, but I am not a formal person. Yeah. And that really sat with me, because if everyone or anyone who knows me, like, I love a good time. Like, I am about my business when I need to be, but baby, when I'm off, don't check for me because I could be doing things you would never want to know about. I'm just kidding. I think I have a board member or two in the room. I'm just kidding. However, when she said that, though, it surfaced for me. This is, I think, the challenge and the intersection that a lot of leaders are in. Since the pandemic, I'll just speak from that timestamp to now, we have just been on a downward spiral of challenge and trauma. There has not been much goodness that has come out of anything since then. And just when we thought we were getting our footing and maybe we could start again, like another tragedy hit. I don't even know if I could say his name. And I think that is starting to brew in ways where some of us as leaders are just like, we're done. Like, we can't. We will not deal with all of this. I think there is a representative right now who is stuck inside of chambers because Texas legislature will not let her leave because she won't sign away her rights to be free. I can't even fathom the fact that this is happening in 2025, and yet it is. And so as we round up a little bit or round out this conversation, I want to just touch briefly on, you all are leaders. You lead teams and buildings, you lead city governments, you're leading organizations and really influencers around the state, and yet no one cares, again, if your kid or a parent falls ill. No one cares if your mom needs you to come save her because something is happening. No one cares if you lost a parent, if your marriage is crumbling, or if you yourself are having a mental breakdown and you're ready to just like say, screw the world. What they care about is you showing up and reconciling HR issues or balancing a budget or getting that event produced because that's what you're paid to do. And as a leader, that's what's expected of you. My question, and I'm still trying to figure this out because I'm not sure I figured it out yet. My question is, how do you balance the both and? What are your strategies of balancing being an individual with all of this behind you and still showing up for community who depends on you?
I think one of the things that I've learned is that in figuring out who I am and knowing what's important to me, that's allowed me to understand how I lead. There's some non-negotiables on the table and some boundaries. My kids are one of them. So if my baby got a 3:00 performance at the school, I'm out of here. And being intentional about finding that balance to being in that leadership space, but also being very clear on your boundaries of what are those non-negotiables. I took the 27th off. It's my godbaby's first day of school. Won't be there. I just won't. I'm not going
That
to.
must be the godmother or the mother.
That was her
laugh.
laugh. That's just her calendar screenshot. I'm not going to work that day. You have to be able to bring your human side into your work. And that's the same that I also expect of the staff in which I have the privilege to lead. So your baby got an assembly on Tuesday, mine got one on Wednesday, so let's make sure we meet on Monday so we got the plan figured out for the work so that we can both be in that space. And so, again, really being intentional about what are the things that are important to you and having boundaries around that are not that are unshakable. This morning, I woke up, I didn't feel good, and I knew I needed to flat iron this wig before tonight. I didn't go to work. I'm using PTO every time. And it's important to find that balance. And again, when I talk about my nervous system being so much more relaxed in this stage of time, I'm not letting everyone else's expectations about what I'm supposed to be doing have me in a frenzy. I just can't do that no more. And it led to me feeling sick. I was diabetic for 10 years until my numbers came back last week that I'm no longer diabetic. It just had me stressed out and on the go, and I couldn't just even sit and rest and enjoy the fruits of my labor that I was building. I've built this beautiful life for myself, and I can't enjoy it because I'm always doing all the things. And so being okay with being able to press the pause button and say, yeah, the work's gonna get done, but not at the expense of the things that I value, that I cherish, because the time is teaching me more now than ever is so incredibly limited. And so being intentional about your time and one way that I set myself up for success, because I'm gonna share my little tools that I've been learning with y'all, is I carve out my Sunday mornings before my kids get up, and I really sit down. I look at my week, what I have to do, what's on my calendar. I write down my intentions for the week. I journal. I ground myself on Sunday morning so that I'm prepared for what's to come, because as soon as that first kid pops out the bed asking for pancakes, it's go time, and I won't have that time to plan and for myself. And so as I'm more intentional about how I'm going to spend my time that week, what I need to get ahead of so I can make that 3:00 assembly, it just flows so differently. And so again, creating that time for self and just having boundaries, but then also giving grace for the people in which that you lead to do the same. I expect my team to make sure that they're carving out time for family. If you're sick, clear the calendar. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And next week we're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna make up that time. But like understanding that we are all human, and so both modeling that, but also leading with that.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And it really is a new wave of thinking about what does working look like in this new age, because we have inherited boomers culture or white supremacist culture, call it what you want. And this culture is such that you know, and it's so funny because I have a couple people here who will remind me that I got boomer tendencies. But I do believe like butts and seats, right? Or like be on time and all. But does that really matter in the grand scheme when we're talking about getting something done? And does it actually mean that I need to be in front of you, like stating my case and saying the same thing over and over and over again when we've had the same conversation 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago? And I think that that is something that I'm beginning to reflect on. I have to do a lot of show face in community, and I have to barter for people's time and almost play this small p politics. And I don't know that it's all that worth it anymore, because people are still showing up the same way that they've been showing up. And so if you're not going to change, then I need to change my strategy. And it probably doesn't include you. And I got to tell you, there are some people who are not happy about that. And I think what you've just described is, and that's not my problem. Like, that's what I'm taking from. Like, that's a you problem. You want to lead this way. You want to stay stuck in this. Okay, but I'm going to keep doing this because this is what's good for my community. And so that intersection of leadership and being and healing, like I see we're getting close to time, so I want to try to truncate this a little bit, but give us a couple cliff notes. Like, how are you all doing that in your respective worlds?
I've gathered mine. I did gather mine. I can go.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sunday mornings, oh my goodness, Sunday mornings, there's nothing that my church is myself. That is like, my church is the time, the quiet. I can't emphasize that enough. I guess the other two things is saying no. My mom did not teach me how to say no. I'm gonna stop bringing her up because she really might watch this and she might think we have beef.
We love you, Mom. We love you.
But there's a lot of things that I'm processing about learning how to say no and learning how to set proper boundaries. I mean, just today, I'm watching over 220,000 people, and there's things happening in every moment of every part of this day. Yeah. And I had to tell them, people, actually, I have committed to be here for my friend today. And y'all are going to have to figure it out. I don't care that there's 2 other people missing. You're going to have to figure it out. And just being comfortable to go. They will be okay without me. And the problems that are here or whatever that we have, it will exist. If I want to come back and do leadership 10 years from now, that will exist. There will always be a problem for me to solve.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is just, I joke about these days that my countdown, but my countdown is not really a countdown to freedom. It's really a countdown to, like, this is how many days you have to leave it on the floor. Yeah. Do everything that you can, be the very best that you can, leave it all on the floor so that when you go, you feel like you did the very best that you could. And I just want to be able to sleep well and rest knowing that I did my best.
Timer's going off. Twana.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of keep it short because there aren't a whole lot of newer revelations, I knew at a very early age in elementary school that I needed to prioritize myself. You know, when my mom would offer my brothers and I weed and alcohol, and I said, nah, I'm cool. And they would say, oh, you think you're better than everybody? Nah, but I'm really focused on where I'm trying to go now. When I would get up and take my brothers to church in elementary school because a little bus would come through our neighborhood and pick up whoever wanted to go. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen in our lives today or tomorrow, but I know that I'm trying to be where God is. And so I'm trying to get up and go to church, and I would take my brothers with me so that I could build that faith in me and in my siblings. And so for a very long time, I have been very independent, very focused, very confident, very sure of where I knew I wanted to head, very sure of the ways to get there. Maybe not, you know, getting there as easily as possible. Definitely stumble. Life has not been perfect. But I have been able to prioritize myself since I was a child. Yeah. And so when people watch my story and they're like, oh, you do Pilates consistently. I've been an athlete. I've always done yoga. I've always done Pilates. Carving out time every single day for me, prioritizing myself as a woman and not just like as a mom. No, as a woman, as Tawana, I have a whole life of things that I want to do for myself. And then there's my family also, and things that I want to see for my family and for my children. But it has not been a hard struggle for me to prioritize myself. And I just think that is a very good thing, to have those boundaries, to remind yourself you are a single individual also. And so I am very grateful for my faith in God, very grateful in my ability to see a life and pathway for myself and where I'm headed, because if I'm happy and whole and working on myself, I have so much more to offer my family and my community. And I think that will always be like the key to my success. Like, wake up and make sure that I'm a happy person and I'm doing the things that I love. And then I can go out and, you know, preach to other people, or more importantly, be a model and practice what I'm trying to preach.
The path to unconventional healing is a journey that only you can really embark on. It is naming what you need, what you don't need. It's about focusing on how you correct the issues that are holding you back from being great or from just being. And I love that you said you are a woman and then a mother and all the other things, because so often we carry all of those hats in one bucket and we just pick which one makes the most sense for whatever instance is coming up. And the harm in that is that we never fully get to say, like, what do I as an individual need to be really great in this moment? And so releasing, thinking about the way that you release is a way that you can actually get there unconventionally, of course. The release method that my team and I are working on, there's 2 of us, y'all. Shout out to my boo, is for high capacity humans who've had to be strong for everyone. I think we heard that today, but who are finally ready to focus on themselves, to be soft for themselves, and to not be about everyone else's expectations. It's about releasing the invisible labor that you carry, and it's about doing what makes sense for your whole being. I'd welcome you all to continue to join us on this journey of releasing unconventionally by liking and commenting and sharing and subscribing. The way that you all do that helps us to elevate this work, this stage, these conversations to people who didn't know that they needed to release. I also encourage you all to be more patient and graceful with yourselves, to not take everything so serious. It is a serious time, and yet by not having or centering joy, happiness, stillness, we are doing ourselves a disservice. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for being a part of the podcast live recording. You all have been amazing.